Greetings everyone and welcome to another Hangar review. I asked you guys which Squadron Pets you wanted to see first, and while it was a real dogfight, the Jem'Hadar Pets came out on top. As a special bonus, this happens to be two reviews in one, because the Squadron Pets are basically identical to the regular Jem'Hadar fighters. They have the same equipment and abilities at every rarity, and mechanically they function the same. If you parse them, you only get one ship per fighter slot, not 6. The squadron gimmick is purely cosmetic, so anything said here about the squadron fighters should apply to the regular versions as well. The Jem'Hadar fighters aren't the strongest performers in the world in terms of DPS. They do, however, have one special property that makes them more desirable than they otherwise would be. They don't have a torpedo. Why does that matter? It all comes down to the Concentrate Firepower Bridge Officer ability, which is popular among torpedo boats. Concentrate Firepower is not a buff you apply to yourself, but rather a debuff you apply to an enemy. It works a bit like a raffle, periodically handing out free high-yield torpedoes to allies firing on that target. In order to get a ticket, you need a torpedo. This includes your Hangar pets. You don't want your Hangar pets taking up all those free high yields. You want them for yourself, or if someone else in your group is using Concentrate Firepower, you don't want your pets taking up their free high yields. Let's talk about the pets themselves, starting with the rare quality or baseline version. They have a pulse cannon, beam array, and directed energy modulation rank 1, which if you don't know, gives some shield and armor pen. The AI seems fine to me. They're very aggressive and stay on target, especially with the beam array, which has a wide firing arc. The advanced versions add a dual cannon and bump directed energy modulation up to rank 2. The elite version changes the pulse cannon to a turret, bumps up directed energy modulation to rank 3, and adds rapid fire rank 1. Talking about performance numbers is going to open a can of worms. I'm going to put up a plot of damage against DPS on the screen. You can see that they're perfectly correlated. There is no reason for that to be the case, and in fact the opposite is usually true. There's only one explanation for this. All of the pets are having their DPS calculated using the same time interval, regardless of how long they were actually alive. And looking closer at the parser numbers, this seems to be the case. What's happening is that it takes the total damage that the pet dealt, and it's dividing it by your combat time, not the combat time of the pet. This may give an accurate representation of what their DPS contribution was to your overall run, but it doesn't help us understand what the DPS of the pets themselves actually are. In other words, the DPS you see in the parser is not the DPS of the pets, it's what they contributed to your DPS. It's just one of the many things that make it hard to make definitive value judgments about pet performance. Mixing data from different runs starts to pollute things due to all the variability between them. I can only run 2 pets at a time, so I'm just showing you graphs from a run with the base version and the elite version. However, the relationships here were similar with any of the combinations. I decided to look at total damage dealt by each type of pet, and it was nearly identical. This tells us that what actually happened on that run, but without a larger sample size, it's hard to know how normal it is. I decided to look at the number of attacks each pet made against their total damage dealt. This isn't perfect, of course, but it's better than nothing. You'll notice that one elite pet in the bottom left corner had very few attacks and little total damage, and likely died early in the run, as with the 2 rare pets around the 85 attack mark. Still, the trend line should give us a good idea of how hard each pet is hitting, and it doesn't look good for the elite pets. This is complicated by the fact that the elite pets have more weapons and rapid fire, which naturally increases the number of attacks due to having more weapons that can fire, as well as giving their cannons a Cat 1 boost. They also had twice the shield and armor pen boosts, and yet despite that, they didn't do any more damage. They just seemed to attack more often, which rather than doing what you would assume and increasing their total damage output, just seems to bring them into parity with the rare pets that probably hit harder despite having fewer weapons and abilities. Why is it like this? I have no idea. What about the pulse cannons, I hear you asking, and the advanced versions? Good questions, but the story is nearly the same. Roughly equal performance with the base version, but the advanced version just seems to attack more often due to the extra weapon, and they also have the pulse cannons. It isn't translating into more damage. Somehow, I've managed to turn what was supposed to be a 2 or 3 minute video into another TED Talk, but at least I can refer back to this video in the future if I need to. I don't claim to be an expert on Hangar pets, and I sure as hell haven't collected enough data to make any definitive claims, but based on this rough analysis, it seems as though having more weapons and more abilities just doesn't make the higher rarity pets any better. We'll have to see how things pan out with the other pets in the future. Perhaps these results don't hold up for Hangar pets in general. I ran the elite versions along with my elite Class F shuttles as a sort of test to see where they fit in the overall scheme of pet damage, since I know the shuttles are excellent performers, and every single one of the shuttles did better than all of the squadron fighters, with the best shuttle doubling the DPS of the best squadron pet. I've seen worse, but these are pretty darn mediocre. Let's try to wrap this thing up by doing the ratings. 4 stars. In terms of raw performance alone, I would probably give them 3 stars or maybe even 2 stars, if we're being brutally honest here. But I'm adding a bonus star for their niche use on torpedo builds. I also happen to think that they're some of the best looking fighter pets, so that doesn't hurt. Unless you want them for flavor or need them for a torpedo build, you can probably do much better. See the Peregrines. I hesitate to call them one-trick ponies, but their one trick is basically the only thing saving them from a low rating. Next time, we look at the Inquiry class battlecruiser. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, and if you want to see more of my stuff in the future, consider subscribing. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.